Good afternoon everyone, welcome back to the Nature Patch. My name is Robyn and I'm outside this afternoon. It has been quite a while since I've done a full garden tour, so I wanted to take you around this afternoon and walk you through the gardens that we have here on this property and share with you everything that we're growing at the moment. In terms of overall in the garden, we kind of have two main patches where we grow lots of food and flowers. They're both my pride and joy. I love spending time out here in the gardens and I try and meet all of the different permaculture principles. We do organic gardening here and we're located on a slope here. We do garden in ground, so that means that we have to manage water flows on this property. So you'll see kind of a lot of swales in a lot of the garden beds as you kind of go down the slope, and that is to retain all of the water in our garden beds. Speaking of water, it has actually been raining quite a lot over the past few weeks. Everything is looking pretty green and is nice and happy. The weather is also warming up though. So that means just an overall change in what we're growing around here. So I thought it would be a really good opportunity to update you all. So if you like garden tours, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for lots more garden content. And let's get into the garden tour. So I don't usually use this camera for garden tours, so hopefully it is not too shaky. But this garden here behind me that I'll show you first was the first garden that we planted here on the property. We do live with family members as well, so we are kind of constrained to what we can grow and the kind of infrastructure that we can have in this area, being that the people we live with aren't really gardeners as such. But I do like to encourage everyone to come down to the garden and make it as easy as possible for everyone. So this is a little bit of an overview of the garden. I'll go row by row and share with you what we're growing in each of the rows. The first bed here, this is at the very bottom, so you can see the water comes down this way. And then I kind of have like a mound of sticks and mulch here to kind of cap it all and catch this water, but a lot of the nutrients drains down into this bed. We have some calendula, which is just really happy here at the moment. It is definitely slowing down a lot, but still producing beautiful flowers like this one. I've also been harvesting a lot of these seed heads here. This one on the screen, I'm going to wait till it dries out a little bit more and matures. But I have a whole bowl upstairs full of calendula seeds that we have been harvesting because I really liked this style. It was an art shades mix, I think it was called. I definitely want to be growing this again next year. And then next to that, I had a lot of herbs that I wanted to fill in all of the bare spaces. So I've just got some dill planted down here and then some scarlet runner beans that are running up this trellis. This is one of my favorite things in the garden. I just love these trellises. I got this from Brookfield Gardens. If you're in Brisbane, they had heaps of stock when I checked the other weekend. So hopefully they still have some more. And you can kind of see the scarlet runner beans are starting to flower here. So I'm hoping we get a few beans off that. And then moving down, we have some leeks, which are growing nicely here. A random kind of compost tomato that came up that the king parrots have been enjoying. That's fine, they can enjoy this one. I'm gonna have to net a lot of my other tomatoes though. And then I have a massive comfrey here that started just as a tiny little plant and it has just gone crazy in the last few weeks. It has these beautiful pink flowers that the bees have been loving. And I think I am going to be able to divide this plant and hopefully never have to buy comfrey again because it's such a great plant that accumulates a lot of nutrients from below the soil and brings it up to the surface so that these leaves have a lot of nutrients and you can make fertilizer tea from it or just put it around your garden as mulch and they are really high in nutrients. So moving along from this bed up to the next one, we have some very healthy looking kale. The moment it is starting to get a little bit of bug pressure. You can see a lot of these dark little spots there, lovely gifts from caterpillars. But this kale, I'm probably going to pick quite a lot of it. I really like making kale chips with this variety. This is a blue dwarf kale, my favourite variety to grow just because the leaves aren't as strong as some of the other darker leafy kales. I really like this variety. And then I have a Black Beauty zucchini here that's looking a little yellow, so I think I'm going to give this a feed of some worm tea soon just to give it a boost of nitrogen. And then 3 tomato plants here that I just staked with some bamboo stakes that I had lying around. These ones here are the grossless yellow, I think that's what it's called. And they're looking really healthy. This was the bed that I had amended for garlic, so it has lots of manure in this bed and lots of nutrients. And then behind them there I have 3 more tomatoes, and these ones are the Tigerella tomatoes. I'm really excited about having Tigerella tomatoes again just because of the beauty of the tomatoes. I love growing different types of tomatoes. I'm not actually a massive tomato lover, like I don't really like them raw, but I find if I grow different varieties that I don't see in the shops a lot, I am more likely to eat the tomatoes rather than just kind of growing the normal red ones or the salad kind of tomatoes. I love trying different varieties. So let me know in the comments down below what your favorite variety is and I might give it a go. I'm trying lots of different colors, different shapes, different sizes. Smaller ones grow really well in southeast Queensland. I have not had great luck with larger tomatoes, so I do like to stick to the medium to small size tomatoes. And then next to the tomatoes, I have a Californian Wonder capsicum and another Black Beauty zucchini, my Cayenne Chili peppers. Look how many more I have on this plant. It's just going crazy. Just one plant has been so productive for me. And we're not really spice lovers. So yeah, so one was definitely enough for us, I think. And then next to the Cayenne Chili, I have a golden zucchini. Again, it's looking kind of quite yellow, these leaves. So I think they're going to need a little bit of a feed, but I can see some baby fruit there. So these are the female flowers here, and this is a male flower coming out now. You need the male flowers to pollinate the female flowers, the one that looks like they have baby fruit on them. So the male flowers is what I want to see more of to be able to get these. Behind that row, I have a few more flowers here. I have the same type of calendula mix that I had. These are just a more yellow flower. And my borage is flowering. I had so many people tell me to plant borage, and I listened and planted it. I do love this plant. I have grown it a few times before, and I mean, how can you not love those dainty purple flowers? They're just beautiful. They're also edible as well and taste kind of like cucumber. So definitely in a video soon, I'm going to make maybe some summer cocktails or something like that, and use these in some ice cubes. I think they'll look really, really pretty. I don't really have much left in the bed here, apart from all of this is just prepping for some cucumbers. So I've got a bunch of Space Master cucumbers that I'm going to run up these trellises because they're quite short, and this variety, the Space Master variety of cucumber, doesn't take up a lot of space, so I'm hoping to get quite a high yield in this patch. I've also got some turmeric planted in and amongst here that hasn't popped up yet. Just all of the compost seeds are happily sprouting. This back row here, I won't run through everything, but some of the highlights in this bed here are the flowers that have started flowering. There is some beautiful cosmos flowers, and some of the zinnias are also starting to flower in here. And I think this is Blue Eyes Lobelia. This little plant has been producing like crazy, and the flowers on it are just so pretty. Having different flowers that are different sizes, like really small dainty ones, attracts a lot of the smaller insects. So I like to have a lot of different size and shapes and colours in the garden, and this blue flower brings in a lot of different bugs and pollinators. And down the end of the bed I've got my bean patch, which I've been actually picking quite a few handfuls of beans every few days. These ones here are my favorite, the red burgundy beans. They are a delicious variety and taste exactly like green beans, but I just like the color, and they're a lot easier to spot when you're picking them than green beans. So that's this area done. I will walk over to the other garden bed after I snack on some beans a little bit more and share with you what we're growing over in the other garden patch. Right, so this is the other patch that we have. I really love this area because I have just put in a lot of effort into soil management here. It was such a productive garden over winter as well, so this is where I was spending a lot of my time. The other patch gets a lot of shade through winter, but now coming into summer, everything's going to become a lot more busy over that area. So there's a few patches in this garden bed, but still a bunch growing, and just always makes me so happy. I am slowly going to work my way down to the very end where I had my flower garden that I planted in a few videos back. The flowers are just looking so beautiful, so I'm really happy with how this garden is going. The sun has come out a little bit. This is an overview of what the garden is looking like. There are, how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different garden beds in this garden. It's quite a large space. It's, you know, it's a lot of work. Every weekend I'm pretty much working away in this garden to maintain, and there's still a lot more to do that you'll see. But one thing I did want to show you before I hop over there is over here, all of my blueberries are starting to become ripe. These are so delicious. Thankfully the birds haven't found them yet. Touch wood somewhere. Because these have been my go-to snack when I come down to the garden. While I love taking produce up to the kitchen and cooking with it and making recipes, my favourite way to eat what I grow in the garden is actually just in the garden. Snacking on different things while I work, nothing beats fresh produce, I reckon. So in this first bed that we have here, I have some very sad looking flowers. The cornflowers are definitely coming to an end, but they have been so beautiful, and I just love both the flowers and the foliage on this plant. This is kind of my favorite style of color, I suppose, if you can have a style of color. I just love the lighter green, kind of muted green color with pastel colors. Really pretty, and I think it looks really striking in the garden. Next to that, I had a big clump of calendula, which you can see is going to seed now. So this is what I was talking about before when I'm just waiting for a lot of the seed pods to dry out a little bit. This one you can see is drying, and then this is what these seeds look like. So this is what I'm going to be collecting to have lots of calendula seeds. Then we have some space here that I've just amended with a lot of horse manure that I'm just letting kind of compost in place. And I planted a rosella at the edge of this bed. You'll notice a lot of my garden style is very erratic, not uniformed. I like to include a lot of different heights and different plants in the same garden bed. One of the main reasons for that and why I include rosellas at the edge and in between beds is because it's a larger plant and it provides a little bit more height and protection for a lot of the smaller plants. So for me, I like to then plant things like greens underneath them, and I plant it in the sunniest spot or where the sun goes to the most, so that a sun-loving plant like a rosella or okra or pigeon pea, I've done a video on some of my favorite shade-loving plants for a subtropical climate. It's really so that they get the sun and all of the other plants can get a little bit more protection. So moving down from that bed, I have a space here that I'll probably plant some okra. My silver beet is looking a little bit worse for wear, but we're still getting quite a lot of silver beet from different areas. The leeks we're slowly harvesting through. I did make a potato and leeks soup the other day from majority ingredients from the garden, which was just so beautifully delicious. But these leeks are sizing up and growing nicely. And then behind the leeks, I have some capsicums that I just planted. Actually, I take that back. These are jalapenos and some black olive chilies that the foliage just looks really pretty on these. They're really dark green and purpley leafed chili. Yet to see what they taste like. I think the chilies are really small, but I think it'll look really nice in the garden. And then a random dahlia that I have at the back. So I always like to include some flowers in the garden beds. As you can see in the next bed, I have some zinnias planted here. So these ones are the Orange King zinnia, and I'd have to say these are actually looking the best out of all of the zinnias that I have. I think they really enjoyed the fertilizer that I gave this area. I just use organic plant food basically, and they are very happy. So I'll probably pinch the tops of these fairly soon just to encourage more kind of sideways growth rather than the plant just shooting up. Then you get a more stronger plant if you have more side shoots going out. Behind them I have my silver beet, and in a video that I recently did I cut back all of this silver beet to the base, and this is what I'm left with. It has gone so crazy and just grown back. Nice and healthy, nice and beautiful. So yeah, I have another round of silver beet that I can pick, and I didn't even need to freeze it because it's looking beautiful. And then I have a row of Aroma tomatoes. These are one of my favorite tomatoes to grow in Brisbane. They just seem to enjoy the heat a lot and aren't really fazed by too many bugs in this area. This one here has just started flowering, so hopefully we will get some Aroma tomatoes soon. And then in between the tomatoes I just have more silver beet and some snapdragons that are definitely on their way out, but still so beautiful. And some more silver beet and another rosella down the end. Moving from that bed down below again, I have some sunflowers here. I've got a kind of square shaped of Californian Wonder capsicums and an everlasting daisy in the middle. A little patch of onions here, my silver beet that I picked in that video, and then another patch here of some capsicums that I planted on the weekend. It was really hot and we had a 35-degree day, so I'm hoping that they settle in with this overcast weather that we have and the rain. I can hear thunder coming, so I'm going to need to speed up this video a little bit. In this little patch I have just things that make me happy. Lots of flowers, so I've got again my cosmos here, and then a borage behind them. These are all dwarf cosmos, so they don't take long to grow and they put on a bunch of flowers. Got a Cape gooseberry there, which I'm hoping will kind of fill in this little space, and some more borage, which is looking beautiful with its gorgeous little blooms. And then I have another teepee kind of trellis here of cucumbers. These are the supermarket green, I think they're called. So these have just started climbing and I'm just kind of training them to go in and out of this trellis. On the other side of the cucumbers, I have a row of beans. These are Blue Lake climbing beans. And I put those beans on this side here because this again is where the sun hits. Cucumbers are not going to like the full sun when we start getting 35, 36 degrees. So I have put the beans on that side in the hope that they will grow up and provide kind of a wall of shade for the cucumbers. So far the beans are growing really fast and I think it'll work out. And then again, to provide even more kind of protection, I have a gorgeous rosella. This is just what the rosella plant looks like up close. They're a really great edible plant. The whole plant is edible, so the leaves, the calyxes and the flowers. It's related to the hibiscus family, and I think it's going to be really nice in flower arranging as well to kind of give a contrast with that red and green colour. And then next to that I have some zinnias that I had left over. I think this one might be Cherry Queen. The flower isn't as full as some of the other ones that I'll show you soon, but still pretty. Moving over, this was all of the bed that we harvested the potatoes from. So I've taken all the potatoes out and I have just amended it with all-purpose fertilizer, just an organic pelletized fertilizer, and manure with sugarcane mulch on it. So I'm letting that sit for a few weeks. And then behind I have 2 rows of bush beans. I can't remember the name of this variety, but I'll put it on the screen. They're kind of like a speckled pinky white bean that is really good for drying. So I'm hoping this area will just be filled with bush beans. Next to them I have some carrots that I harvested one of the rows in a previous video. I'm just letting those do their thing and we pick them as we need. In the next bed I have some onions that I seem to be growing weeds better than I do onions in this area, so I might have to sort that one out. And then I have a space here where I planted some turmeric, so that'll pop up soon. And then we have the rest of the Otway Reds down here. We can't eat all the potatoes that we have in the pantry right now, so I'm just leaving these in here until we actually need them. And then the last bed here is my flower garden, which is such a happy place for me. I've never really grown flowers just for growing and cutting flowers before. This is the first year that I'm really doing that. So I have tried to pack in a lot of colour and different variety into this bed down here. This is an overview of this bed. Nice and packed and nice and colourful. I'll show you some of my favourite flowers. Firstly, I think I have to share this one here. This is Luminosa Bright Pink Zinnia. Just such a gorgeous full flower. And I love all of the just different detail in zinnias of all of the smaller flowers in the center. It's just really pretty, and none of them are exactly the same, which I also really like. This little cosmos down here has just been a glory to look at in the morning. It's where my eye goes to. It's very dainty, but such a hardy plant. So I think I'm always going to be growing cosmos in my garden. This is another favorite. This is Cherry Queen Zinnia. I don't really always love the color red, nor do I love bright pink, but I think I'm being converted with these beautiful zinnias. I've also got some sunflowers planted in and amongst here. I've got a polar bear zinnia here. You'll see some of these brown, this kind of darker brown color here is just coffee grounds that I put in the garden. I know a lot of people say don't put coffee grounds around the garden, but usually I will water this in, and I was hoping the rain would do it for me. And I find when I put coffee grounds with sugarcane mulch, the worms just absolutely love it and do their thing. So that's what I do around my flowers and a lot of my plants. This is something that I don't really want in the garden because grasshoppers love to eat zinnias. So I'm just gonna move you along. But the peppermint stick is another favorite with all of the kind of red speckles on it. And then Envy down here is a gorgeous lime green zinnia, which is also so pretty. And again, you'll see random bits of veggie cuttings and scraps that I just kind of chop and drop around in areas that I know need a lot more nutrients. So this is just the tops of some leeks that I had cut for dinner the other day, and I just kind of chop them and drop them wherever I think needs more organic matter. They'll just decompose over time. But in this area, I just have lots more zinnias, another borage, some salvia, some poppies, which I don't think will flower. And I've filled just herbs around in a lot of the spaces that I have. And dill is one of my favorite herbs. So I've just planted a lot of dill around where I have space. So that is a pretty comprehensive garden tour of everything that I'm growing at the moment. It's such a great time in southeast Queensland and in a lot of other areas in the world to start some new and interesting plants. I'm definitely growing a few things that I've never grown before, a lot of the flowers being one of them. And I'm excited to keep experimenting and growing things that not only feed me and are good for me, but also just bring me a lot of happiness and joy, which I hope you're all doing too in the garden. So if you have any questions about anything that I've planted, let me know in the comments, and I always try to go through a lot of the comments and reply to as many that I can. Thank you so much if you have made it this far in the video. I really appreciate all of your support. If you have made it this far, definitely make sure to like the video, and again, subscribe for lots more garden content. Try and put out 2 videos a week, all things gardening and connecting to nature. So I think I'm going to go and maybe pick a little bouquet of flowers for the house. But I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And until my next video, happy gardening everyone. Bye.